everyone for tuning in. I think this is a real interesting deal we have going on with the panel. I'm not going to introduce them. I'll let them introduce themselves. But real quick, like it's been mentioned on social media, it's a rapid fire Q&A. All the coaches, everyone on the panel will kind of give their take on it and just let it roll. Sure, it'll be a lot of question and answer. If there's any other questions that come up, feel free to put it in the chat, and I'll try and throw it in there as we can. But it's going to be anything and everything, kind of like what the graphic said, from recruiting to about themselves to philosophy, X's and O's, situations, recruiting. I said that, player development, scouting, all the above. So nothing's off limits. And obviously, this is just for us to provide information, a platform just to share. So any of the panelists, go ahead and talk about how you got into coaching and some of your stops and titles along the way. Matt, I'll let you go first since I see you on my screen. But literally everyone on the panel, just answer. Just once, as soon as Matt's done, you can even cut him off if you want. But just go ahead and let it go.
Solid. Well, yeah, I started at UOP. Good to see some representation on here. I did my undergrad there. Was a student manager for 2-3 years. Video coordinator for 1. Worked under Bob Thomas in there. A lot of success. Learned a lot. Then went the junior college route. 1 year was stops at Imperial Valley. 1 year at Allen Hancock. And then now I've spent my past 6 seasons at Cal Poly Pomona.
Aaron Katsuma, I'm the Director of Basketball Operations at Colorado State University. Prior to that, I was the Director of Basketball Operations at Drake University. And then 7 years spent at the University of Minnesota as a student manager for 4, graduate assistant for 2, and then assistant director of player development for 1. Yeah.
This is Grace Ricker-Franca. I started off at Los Altos High School as an assistant coach. Was a student manager at Biola University at the time. Did that for a couple seasons. I went to Whittier Christian, was an assistant coach, became an interim head coach there, and then spent 5 years as an assistant at Biola, and then just finished my first year at Pepperdine. Looking forward to season 2. So, yeah.
Helen. Oh, go ahead, Amanda. You go.
Okay. Amanda Brown. I'm at Pacific currently. I started at Gonzaga as a grad assistant. Went to Santa Clara to work for one of my former coaches at GU. Hopped back up to GU, and now I'm back at Pacific. I've been kind of making my way up and down the WCC.
I'm Helen. I'm the Director of Ops for Princeton. I started as a student manager at Texas, and then I walked on, and then I became a GA there. Spent 2 years as the video coordinator at Georgetown, and then just finished up my first season at Princeton.
I'll go. Jace Coburn, associate head coach at Portland State. I actually started coaching when I was like 18. I was playing college basketball and coaching in the summer in high school, and I started my own AAU program. And then from there, I started coaching at Corona del Sol High School as an assistant coach, and then I moved on to Phoenix College for 2 years as an assistant coach. And then I was a high school head coach in Phoenix at McClintock High School for 4 years. Then I moved on to Howard College in Texas, out there in the WAC-JAC for 2 years. And then now I've been at Portland State, going on my 8th year at Portland State.
Cool. Next question I'll throw out there. How do you guys go about evaluating players, and what do you look for in recruits? And then obviously Helen and AK, how would you go about it when you do get on the road?
I can kind of start this. I took over as quote unquote recruiting coordinator for our program 2 seasons ago now. And I think the biggest thing for me right now is making sure that I was on the same page with our head coach. I hadn't done it before. I had to make sure that I had my own system of keeping track of these kids and what our goals were, to keep improving our program. And obviously, I think everybody would agree, though, that you have to find the kids that are going to be successful in your conference, going to be successful in the system that you run, but also can succeed off the court. So there's a ton. We're not just looking at one thing here. But one of the big things for me is just body language and how they react when I'm actually watching games, when they're making mistakes or things don't necessarily go the way they want. But my biggest thing when I first took over as recruiting coordinator is making sure that I'm on the same page as our head coach.
Great. Anybody else? Go ahead, AK. I know you
Yeah,
got
I'll go. No, I've been pretty fortunate. Here at Colorado State, I get to do a lot of basketball stuff, and recruiting 2022s and 23s. That's kind of what we're doing right now, or at least what I'm doing. And so, but first and foremost for us, it's all about character. If there's any red flags, we're gonna go find somebody else. And that's just how we do things. We have kind of a prong system. When we start recruiting a kid, in the middle will be his name, and then who's the champion, who's the one that's really going to be influential in their decision, parents, workout guy. We kind of figure out who all is going to be involved and get all their contact information. And from there, start calling other coaches in the conference, which that kid plays in. And we do thorough background checks. For us, kids got to be able to shoot the ball. If he can't shoot the ball, he can't play in our system. We can develop other areas of his game, but if the kid can't shoot the ball from the high school line, then he's not going to be successful for us. And then it's about relationships for us. We truly value relationships with the kid and the parents and everybody in the circle. And so that's kind of where I'd start is, one, character, does that check? Two, is this kid, is he fun to talk to? Do I get excited talking to him? And just kind of go from there.
I like to lock in on seeing if I notice them or if they're able to impact games without the ball. I think that's something that I always try to be to emphasize. Obviously, as we all know, there's only one person with the ball at a time, and I think there's a big emphasis right now on skill work and dribbling, and everyone's gotten better at that, but I think no one knows how to play without it or impact the game without it. And I think that's really important for us, just making sure we have enough guys who are able to help us win, even when they're not making shots and not putting the ball in the basket. Obviously, you got to have those guys too. But guys that rebound, guys that get in passing lanes, guys that know how to cut and move off the ball, that's something that we really try to lock in on.
And just to add on to that, I mean, for us, a big thing is making sure that, we recruit kids who want to develop and want to get better. I mean, everybody can have all the talent, all the skills, all that kind of stuff in training. But the biggest thing is, do they align with the goals and the plans that we have? And a lot of that really stems from development. Do they want to transform as a player, or do they think, hey, I've reached it, I'm here, this is what I got? Or are they going to be willing to take advice, to take feedback, to take coaching? How coachable are they to be able to grow? I think that's something that's really big for us. Something that Amanda kind of talked about earlier was, are they going to be able to match up with the best in the league, by position? If we're bringing in a point guard, it's, hey, are they going to be able to get around this person and that person? And are they going to be able to have the skills and the abilities to adjust and compete at this level within the conference so that we could win games? And if not, or if they don't have the ceiling to be able to do that, then it's kind of like, well, we got to find somebody who can. So I think it's really being picky about who you're going after. And again, making sure you're having those conversations and knowing that they're bought into development, they're bought into kind of the culture and what you've kind of set forth in your program. But I mean, as far as the skills wise, I mean, it's by position. We lay out what we kind of have our kids looking like and what we want them to kind of have in the bag already. And then apart from that, it's what are the skills that we could build upon now within our program that we feel confident in, to kind of get them to the next level to compete in the conference.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, so I got very lucky being at Texas. I got to see some really high caliber athletes, one of which is like Ariel Atkins. And it kind of goes with what Matt said in terms of like, what can you do off the ball? So Ariel is like one of the hardest workers I have ever met and seen. But like what she does really good is like what she does off the ball, whether that's communication on defense, whether that's like taking charges, whether that's like, you know, communicating, what do you call it, active hands, deflections. Like she's always, I wouldn't say she's always in the right positions, but she is always like moving around, has that high motor that like puts her potentially in the right position. So whenever I'm, you know, I'm helping out our coaching staff right now. So as I'm watching film, I'm kind of just like taking what, I mean, obviously what Amanda said in terms of like knowing what your head coach wants, but like also individually as I'm like kind of looking at players, I also take like athletes that I've worked has like really good qualities, and then I'm trying to see, okay, do these recruits have these type of qualities that would make them successful? So it's kind of building upon everybody else, but that's kind of how I look at players, is also just like, what do I really like in certain players, and do I see that quality, especially the intangible ones, the intangible qualities.
And I'm gonna throw this out there for the 4 assistants on the staff. Going back to your first year on the road, what would you recommend for someone who's going to be on the road for the first time, for like AK or Helen? You know, because I didn't know really what to expect. You know, when it was my first year, just because there's a lot of games going on with all these different tournaments. You know, how to navigate through the courts, where to, you know, being there early so you can get a seed or whatever. Do you guys, the 4 assistants, have any recommendations or advice to give to any first year coach going out and recruiting?
I would say do your work before you get to the gym, because it's really hard to just show up to a gym with all those courts and games going on and trying to figure out, okay, like, is this kid our level or is he above us or whatever, or who is this kid? So I would say that the most valuable thing for me was doing my work before I got to the gym. So then that way you know who you're watching. And then as you go, if you pick up somebody else who you don't know who it is, you can figure it out later. But going into a gym just blind, or just to watch a team, you might be recruiting somebody that, you know, 2 levels above you is on. So you might be just wasting your time. So I would say do your work before you get to the gym and know exactly who you're looking at, and then build off of that.
Yeah, Jace makes a good point about planning ahead. You know, I mean, because if you don't, I think my advice is, once you do that, now that allows you to not like follow the herd, right? You go to a big tournament and there's always 2-3 games where there's 40 coaches there. You know, some of you got to that higher level programs. For us, you know what I mean, there's going to be guys that are going to help us, you know, I mean, that no one else is watching. You know, and I think at our level, you know, in the lower levels, that's really important, that you trust your skills and you trust your evaluation. There's nothing wrong with being the only person at a court if you know there's players there.
And I would say too, before you even head out, you know, if you're looking at a specific kid at specific games, I mean, you know, something that's always been helpful for me is reaching out to the coach prior to the game, you know, the night before, like, hey, we're going to be at the game at this time, you know, we're going to come see this player. You know, I'm look forward to seeing you and saying hi, and, you know, showing up to the game, you know, 10 minutes before and during the warm-ups, going and saying what's up to the coach. If they're cool and they want to say hi, I think shaking their hand and making sure that they see a face so that they can recognize, okay, that's Coach Grace from Pepperdine. She's here to see this player. And that way there's that conversation, even though you can't be talking to the kid at the tournament, that you at least have that development, or that connection with that coach, so they can let their players know, oh yeah, you know, Coach Grace from Pepperdine came to see you today, and all that kind of stuff. So you kind of make those touch points there. I think are really important for coaches when you go out. So you're not just there and just kind of watching from behind or in the shadows, but you're out there in the front, you're showing that you're supporting, you know, the program and not just the specific kid, but really the coach that's there. Because I think that'll go a long way as far as building those relationships.
I would say bring your snacks. No, I'm a big snacker, but no, I would say the days get, like when you're out in July, the days get really long. So find a way to stay engaged, because it's easy to be distracted or kind of, I don't know if zone out, but the days are just really long. So find ways to stay engaged and make sure that you're still being effective as an evaluator. And then I would just echo, don't just follow the herd. You know, we're not all going to get those kids on the top EYBL courts. Don't be afraid to go to the lesser known courts of some random small town in New Mexico or whatever region you might be able to recruit from.
And Amanda's not kidding about the snacks.
Does anybody have like there's different ways to skin a cat, but like a 6 point, like does anybody in their program have like these are the 6 things we're evaluating, and you like add up a score or something? I know some programs do that.
Go ahead, Mike. I know you got something. Share it with us.
No, I just know NBA teams do that. You know, they just like when NBA teams evaluate, they're like, they just literally have like 1 to 5, like this, boom, 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 and then it just adds up. So every player I'm just wondering if anybody does that at the college level.
We don't. Our assistants, when they go on the road, so each player has a profile, and so we use a Google Drive. Each recruit will have their own folder, whether we break down high school games, AU games, all the information goes into their folder. And after each game, our assistant coaches will send myself, Joe, who's I don't even know what his title is, or CJ, our grad assistant, a voice message of, okay, actually we do have a 1 to 5. 5 is he's definitely good enough. 4 is he's an offered kid. 3 is a watch kid. 2, he's probably not good enough. Or 1, we shouldn't watch him again. So they'll start off by saying, hey, this is JR. I watched so-and-so from team, X. Today he was a 4, thought he was really good, blah, blah, blah. And then he'll go into his evaluation and we'll date it. And so then when we meet as a staff, and we're going through each kid, and we can go back and say, okay, yeah, that's right, I really like that kid versus this team, but he wasn't as good here. And so that's kind of how we organize our recruiting database in terms of a 1 to 5 scale. I think it's really helped us. Over the last 2 years, we've had two true freshmen start for us each year. And so I think our evaluations have been pretty spot on the last couple of years.
Yeah, I've never heard of that. I like that. Anybody else have anything on that? How they kind of scale things out? That was the first time I heard of it. So, Jace, I'll start with you. And this is obviously for everybody, but what's a key component you stress on the floor? It could be on the offensive end and defensive end. I know everyone on the call is offensive or defensive minded, or, is there anything that you stress on or coach?
I'm like 99% defense. And that's been my role actually for a really long time. Just as a coach, moving from school to school. I worked for Mark Adams at Howard and learned a lot from him, and just kind of carried that on through my time. And obviously we do a lot of different things at Portland State now than a lot of other teams do. So I'm primarily 99% of it is all on the defensive side of the ball. So that's where my main focus is at. I enjoy it. A lot of it has to do with my personality too. So, it fits really well for me.
What would you say defensively is like a big point for you? Like, I know you guys press a lot, so any in the passing lanes or like what's a big deal for you defensively?
Yeah, we try and create a lot of turnovers. With the teams in our league, I don't think that's any secret that we try and create a lot of turnovers with the pressing and the trapping and the switching and things like that. So, that's kind of our deal was we always want to be towards the top in the country and creating turnovers. So we pressure the ball a lot. We try and pressure the ball the whole entire floor. So those are just some things that we do and that we're kind of known for. And that's a big part to our program is that we feel like we need to have an identity. We never want to be the team that you can just say like this team sometimes zones or sometimes plays a soft man or anything like that. We always want to be the most aggressive team, and we always want to have that identity to our program.
Thanks. Anybody else want to share about what they stress on offense or defense?
I'll go.
Uh,
Go ahead, Amanda.
all you.
No, go ahead. You're the coach. They want to hear from you.
I would just say one thing that I've taken. So one of my mentors is, I don't know if many of you know him, but Jerry Krause. He was at Eastern Washington for a long time, worked with Gonzaga men's for a long time, and now he's kind of advises the GU women's staff. He's big on like player efficiency ratings and finding those type of things that can be applied to the kids who are playing 5 minutes and the kids who are playing like 25 minutes. So one of the big things, and I use it with our team a lot, is just emphasizing rebounding and talking rebounding efficiency. It's one of the great equalizers. It gets you more possessions in a game. It can give you way more opportunities, and it can limit. It's a controllable. It's an effort thing. You don't have to be the most skilled on the court to do it. You just have to have the toughness and the want to do it. So that's one thing we put in when I came to Pacific. We did rebounding efficiency. And so they had that in the back of their mind. And after every game, we would talk about where they ranked. They would see their rankings, whether they quote unquote passed or failed. And that's helped us this last year. We jumped quite a bit in our defensive rebounding stats in the conference. So.
For us, something that we really emphasize offensively is running. Every kid when he's being recruited says he wants to play in a fast-paced style of offense, and they don't understand when they get to this level how you have to run and run to space. And so that's something that we emphasize offensively in transition. We call it our Phoenix offense. And the number one rule is you got to run the floor. Can't jog. You got to sprint to our spots. We had certain spots on the floor that are named. But that's the most important thing for us offensively is to run. Defensively, it's keeping the ball out of the middle. We play a push style defense, and so once the ball is on the side, we try to keep it there. And we tell our guys if long closeouts, yeah, they're harder to keep from getting to the middle. But once that ball's on the side, you're closed out. Whether it's the ball screen, whether you're head up one-on-one, that ball should never get middle. And if it does, you're going to hear a horn. And that's kind of what our rules are. And then lastly, punishing, kind of like what Amanda was saying. After every game, we chart. We call them cutouts, box outs, and each guy will have a score. Our goal is for each player to be above 85%. And for guards, oftentimes guards don't go to the offensive guards don't go to the offensive glass, but they got to check. We're making sure they check, and then once they do that, they can go pursue the ball and rebound down. But if you're below 85%, it just tells us you're not detailed enough to get the job done, and then we'll look for somebody else. So.
So for the other assistants, do you guys like Grace, or do you just coach everything? There's no defined role as what you're coaching?
Yeah, for me, since I'm kind of more player development, I'm always looking at the offense a lot more. So something that I'm always looking at during game, just kind of our offensive efficiency a little bit within each play that we're running. And so really my role is kind of more on how can I put into practice kind of the shot selections that we're doing, preaching the right shots. What is a good shot defined for us within our offense? And then really just how to make reads, right? Because if we're running, we do a lot of continuous pick and roll offenses. So that's something that we're doing every day, especially in kind of our separated position and together time is a lot of how to make those reads. So that just becomes a big emphasis. And then when we're in games, it's really how efficient are we being within our reads for, again, off the pick and roll or even on the drive and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of been a little bit of what I did this past season, but I'm kind of more so looking at it from a player development standpoint of what are kind of the shots that we should really be emphasizing within our practice and, within our shooting drills, within even our team drills that we're doing together, so that they're getting game-like shots off. But I would say definitely more on the offensive end instead of the defensive end, for sure.
Great. So since you kind of touched on it, skill development, like how do you go about skill development? Do you have a certain plan? Obviously every player is different. How do you kind of go about skill development with your girls?
Yeah, so I mean, for us, everything's pretty much individualized as far as 2 to 3 skills that they could be developing in the off season. I touched on this a little bit during my last segment, but really in the off season is where we're kind of focusing on how our kids can become more efficient on the floor. At the end of the day, our kids want to make an impact, and I think it's important to put them in positions where their minutes count towards something on the floor. Whether it's 5 minutes or 30 minutes, right? We want to make sure that when they get on the floor that they're actually achieving something and they're playing within their roles. So we kind of define that for them early on, and then kind of work with them on specific drills, specific skills for the off season. But when we're in the season, because our 1s, 2s, and 3s, our guards are pretty similar within our offense as far as kind of the motions and the movements and the shot selection. A lot of that will kind of be together where, again, we're kind of practicing, the specific looks that we're going to get against our opponent for that week's defense. So again, when we're running a lot of continuous pick and roll and we play a team that's going under the screen, that's going to change our shot selections. So we're really focusing in on those key shot selections and kind of getting a lot of repetitions, a lot of reads versus live defense on that. And then, if we switch to somebody who's working and they go over the screen, again, shot selections change. So we're kind of taking player development kind of in the direction of what can give them the most reps and impact that's game-like in the season. And then when the off season hits, let's review everything. Let's watch film. Let's see areas that you can improve in and kind of give them those things specifically.
Anybody else want to share on how they go about skill development with your program, with your group?
We try to teach our guys how to do everything. I think it's really good. We teach our post guys how to play on the perimeter. Our guards learn how to post. I think it does a lot of things for us. One, it creates flexibility with our lineups. You can play guys at every spot. You can take advantage of mismatches, no matter who's guarding who. You can have guys comfortable, wherever you put them on the floor. And then it kind of gives them a feel. You just letting them putting them in the shoes of a different position, on the floor. You know what I mean? They're starting to see the game and think the game, in a little more, in a broader sense. And I think it helps them do those things. And then there's just certain things that you lock in on, that are going to be helpful no matter what position you're playing or where you are on the floor, right? Being low, being strong, reading the defense. I mean, that stuff is going to help you, again, like I said, no matter what position, no matter what spot you are on the floor.
Yeah. Helen, how do they do things over at Princeton, skill wise?
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of it's individualized, kind of like what Grace said. I think what's key is also like footwork and fundamentals. So I think it's like our coaches really work on the footwork of things. So a lot of our drills, whether it's like shots or something, they'll just like go through the footwork of, how to keep your, where to put your feet, like where to put your body, how to be balanced, like all of that stuff. I think our coaches do a really good job of like starting from the very basic, even if it's like something that, the girls have done like previously, with like, say they're a junior or whatever, and they've been, working out with another staff before, since we're all new, our coaches will still come in and they'll still just start from the very basics of like, okay, you're coming off a screen, like these, this is where, not that this is where your foot should be, but like, where is your foot the most comfortable, right? Like, how is your body just like reacting, naturally to you catching the basketball and then going up for a shot. So they'll rep that, and then just like basically what they do a good job of is just like building it piece by piece by piece until, you know, then you start doing game reps and stuff like that. So that's kind of how I think, you know, our coaches kind of build upon skill development.
Yeah, and do you at Princeton, do you guys teach, you know, left foot, right foot all the time, right foot, left foot, you shoot it, or is it either or, your inside foot?
Yeah, it's either or. It's kind of like what that player is. I mean, they're coming in, they already have, half of them have trainers already at home. So it's kind of, I mean, it's tough to be like, hey, I need you to completely change it unless it's like super wrong. I think our coaches are very good at just like, okay, this is what you've learned, this is what you feel comfortable with, like, let's just make sure it's efficient. And so, yeah, it's kind of anything that they want to do, assuming that it like doesn't hurt their body and it like doesn't like affect their efficiency in a sense.
Helen, do you guys run the Princeton offense? Is that a requirement of coaching there?
It's a requirement on the men's side. Women's side, no. We if you can play defense, you can play at Princeton. No, I'm just kidding. But seriously, you got to play defense at Princeton.
The
We
women's side.
experienced that firsthand at Mizzou this last year, by the way. So,
Yeah, Jace, how do you guys go about skill? Because you guys get a bunch of transfers, and so guys are coming with, you know, different experiences and all that. So how does it kind of work over there?
Well, we work on it every day in practice, before and after, and in the middle. I guess our big thing is we really work a lot on shooting, because, I mean, I guess it's cool if you can do a jab step, one dribble, crossover, step back, but if you hit nothing but the backboard, then like, what are we doing? So we really work on being able to make shots first without all the other stuff, and then just keep building on top of it. So that's kind of our deal, is that we work a lot on shooting and making the ball go in the basket first, and then progressing to other things too. So
Jace,
that's
in a
kind of what we
practice,
do.
how many shots does a player get up in one of your practices? Like when you're practicing?
It really varies. You know, we don't count the shots, but it varies. Like early in the year, they'll get a lot more shots. Or actually, my bad, the other way around. At the beginning, they get less shots because we're trying to do like a lot of 5-on-5 stuff and things like that. And then as we go, and you know, we don't have to do as much 5-on-5 and 5-on-0 stuff, then we focus more on just shooting stuff.
And since we're talking about shooting, Amanda, I'm gonna ask you to go first. But whether it's your personal favorite shooting drill or your programs, it's a shooting drill that the girls love or coach loves. Shooting drill, anything. You're on mute.
We have one that the girls kind of stick to because they got pretty competitive with each other. It's basically using the 5 spots around the 3-point line. The first time around, you got to make 2 in a row to advance to the next spot. On your way back around, it's just 1 from each spot, but you can't miss. If you miss, then you got to start back at, it would be the corner to make it back around. So they got pretty competitive. One of our freshmen who actually didn't play a ton of minutes, we were doing extra work with her, and she caught fire. And I think the goal's like 2 minutes, and she ended up finishing it in a minute 30. She's like, I don't know what happened. I got in a zone. But all the juniors and seniors, her upperclassmen, were like, what the heck? So they're all trying to beat that record now.
Matt?
Yeah, specific shooting drills. Nothing really comes to mind, to be honest. I mean, we keep it pretty basic with that stuff. I know the guys love when we do shooting contests with the coaches. And Coach K he puts his foot on the line for every 3, and they call him out on that. That's their favorite shooting drill.
Grace?
I think one favorite from the past that we used to do was Alan used to call it champ or chump, but basically you divide the kids into like groups of 2 or 3, and then they're all at different spots in the 3, and then they get like 2 balls each, and then basically it's just continuous 3-point shots to 5, but 4 and 5 have to be back to back, and if not, then you go back to 3. So basically there's like 3 games total, so whoever has the most wins at the end of that wins. I mean, it's a fun little competitive one that the kids like playing, but it's simple. All they're really doing is catching and shooting 3s, and then trying to get first team to 5 wins. So again, I kind of keep it pretty basic with our shooting drills, but something that has a little bit of a competitive component to it.
Yeah, Helen, what's Princeton shooting like?
Yeah. So the day before a game, we'll do shoot to 50. It's called shoot to 50. So basically, you're split up into 2 teams. You got the 5 spots. Everyone around. There's like 5 people on the 5 spots. Every person has a ball, and then you have like 1 or 2 rebounders. Assuming that's kind of how your team is able to like split up evenly, and then basically everyone is just like shooting until they get to 50. And every 10, you move spots, and so like. I don't know. It's insane. Balls are flying everywhere because you got about 10 balls on the court going. And yeah, the girls really like it. And also it's just like fun way to just end practice after, for a day before a game. So yeah, I would say it's called like shoot to 50. It's pretty fun.
AK?
For us, we shoot the ball a lot. So we have 3 at the end of each individual, we have 3 shooting drills that we do every day. One's a 1-minute drill. Basically, a guy picks a spot on the floor from 3, shoots for 1 minute, highest score wins. Our 2.5-minute drill. Again, 5 spots, 2 corners, 2 slots at the top, 30 seconds each, and you try to shoot it. Try to make as many shots total from those 5 spots. We have a drill called the Celtic 50. It's 1 shooter, 1 rebounder, 1 ball. Put 5 minutes on the clock, and the goal is to make 53s from 10 from 5 spots in 5 minutes with 1 rebound or 1 ball. So it really emphasizes passing, obviously shot prep, repetition, all of that. And then the last one we do day before the game, we call it the 4-minute drill. 2 corners, 2 slots are filled, 4 lines of 2. And basically there's a line on the baseline. Those are the passers, but ball goes from passer to corner to slot, corner, shot, corner, slot, shot, corner, slot, shot, corner. And so it's just constant balls flying around, but our goal is to make 100 in 4 minutes. And after every minute, each guy or each line moves over clockwise or counterclockwise, whatever way we're going. And if we don't get 100, guys got to run. So those are kind of our 4 that we do pretty regularly. Yeah, day before the game, push-ups, sprints, but we'll kind of do that until they complete it. So if it takes them 3 times, then we'll just keep doing it until they make it. So,
Jace, any staple shooting drills at Portland State?
We do like a lot of partner shooting, just because we figure the guys can get up more shots in a shorter amount of time with partner shooting as opposed to like a whole team drill. But every day we'll do some sort of warm up, whether it's breaking down guards and bigs or, guards, wings and bigs. And we just come up with a lot of different things a lot of shots that they'll shoot within offense. For instance, like we shoot a lot of transition threes. So we practice shooting a lot of transition threes where they'll just start from half court and sprint right into a wing 3. And, so we do a lot of things within our offense and try and practice our shooting that way. More so than just regular drills.
Yeah. What are some of the things that you guys track as assistant coaches during games, or even you go back and stat even just some of the things that you track in game or go back and track? I know, Amanda, you talk about rebounding. Matt, what are some of the things you guys kind of track? Because I know you guys play that matchup zone all game. So is there anything specific that you guys track?
The only thing specific that's out of this isn't even really out of the box too much. It's just deflections. We're really big on deflections. So we track that. Other than that, I mean, rebounding, turnovers, pretty much the meat and potatoes stuff everyone does.
Anybody else have anything that they track?
Hey, I've got a question for Matt real quick. On deflections, real quick. Do you guys have like a goal you guys try to reach per game?
I don't think there's a set number. I don't. But I think you can tell when guys are in the passing lane and they're anticipating and, you know what I mean? They're engaged off the ball. We try to look at that more than anything else.
AK, you had something that you guys stat at Colorado State?
Yeah, so we break it down into 10 4-minute rounds because obviously every 4 minutes, there's a media timeout, and so there's 10 rounds in a game. And so we break it down by round, and so you know, after the game, throughout the year, we'll keep track of, round one, through round 10. And if we're struggling in a certain area, like this past year, we weren't very good out of the gates. And we decided to make a change in our starting lineup 10 games through. And I think that really helped us, just a different energy. So that's something that we do. We're fortunate. The Mountain West bought Shot Tracker for all 11 teams in our league, and so something that we emphasize is our 2-point defense within the game. And so we have this iPad, and we're able to see shot charts from both our team and their team, and so we track 2-point defense, especially in the rack zone. Just we're not being physical enough with our wall ups, or we're not stepping up and taking charges. That's something that we emphasize, and we can show, hey, they're 10 for 12 in the rack zone. We don't change that. If we don't step up, take a charge, or wall them up at the rim, then it's going to be a long night. And so those are two things that we track. And then offensive efficiency. Somebody on our bench always is tracking our set and the result of that throughout the game. And so come crunch time, if something's been working, we can go to Coach Medved and say, hey, let's go to this. We're 3 for 5 for 9 points in this game. We've been getting good looks. So we do that as well.
Helen, do you track anything?
I mean, so like I'll get play calls, but that's not exactly tracking. But what I will do is, like, I'm a big person. I'm big on transition, like transition office especially. So what I'll do is after the game, I'll just like watch the whole game and just look at our transition, whether that's like transition. Are we able to get transition threes? Are we able to actually convert on transition, in transition? So that's kind of like the thing that I take away mostly from our game afterwards, and what I'd like to track the most. But in terms of actual like bringing it to the table, not really, because so especially during conference, like we don't have time. We play Friday, Saturday, so like once we finish on Friday, we're busing that night to the next place, which could be like either like a 2-hour to a 5-hour drive, depending on where it's at. And so we're not really looking at the game before. We're just like looking at the next opponent, and then on Sunday or whenever we get back, then like that's whenever we start kind of looking through the past games. But then you're also like preparing for the next 2 games. So it's a little challenging to actually track stuff, and be able to like implement it the next game, unless we like continuously find ourselves like not doing something well, or doing something well that we're like, oh yeah, let's go back and look at that real quick, and then implement it for the next game. But for myself, just transition stuff, transition efficiency.
And sticking with you, Helen, because your league is interesting, you play back to back. How do you go about scouting reports? Like, how do you split them up? And I'm sure everyone does it differently, but just to get us started with scouting and game planning, how does Princeton go about scouting reports? How long are they? How do you split them? Is there anything specific that you, just because it's a back to back, that you just you harp on?
Yeah. So each coach has like three teams, 3 or 2 teams, and so that's kind of how we split the scouting report. And then I think me and the head coach just kind of like watch all games. In regards to how we do it, so I think Monday, so we have that one, so our day off is Sunday, and then we'll have Monday will be Monday, Tuesday will be the game, will be the Saturday game, like prepping for Saturday's game, and then Wednesday, Thursday will be prepping for Friday's game. But then sometimes also it's weird. Ivy League also tells you that you need to have extra days of extra off days. So sometimes that even gets messed up, that you don't actually get like 2 and 2. You really get like one day to prepare for Saturday's game, early in the week, and then you have your next day off, and then you have to like prepare the next 2 days for Friday's game. So Ivy League, yeah, they really care about like, you know, making sure that you don't miss class and that like the kids are, you know, having the full student experience, and then basketball comes a little afterwards.
Yeah. Matt, I know you touched on it. How do you guys do your scan report? You touched on that when you had your talk, but how do you guys do it?
Yeah, so fortunately for us as a zone team, they're not quite as extensive in terms of drops and everything. So we really like to lock in on personnel. You know, we're really detailed with the personnel stuff. You know, and then in terms of splitting them up, you know, we only have 2 assistants. Amy and I split it up. We did that my first year here and haven't really changed much. So if I have 2 in one weekend, then that's what it is. Coach K has a great quote. He always says, you know, championships are won on Saturday, right? Because we used to play back-to-back a lot as well, just change Thursday to Saturday. That Thursday game, right, you can game plan the hell out of that, be ready to go and everything. And on Saturday, especially on the road, right, legs are tired, you know what I mean? And it's just who you just got to suck it up who wants it more on that second night. So we just try to lock in on that.
Amanda, how about you guys at Pacific?
Typically we split it up like Kellen was talking about. We all have, we alternate, but once we get in conference, we have our set teams that we have. When we got into our conference tournament though, we all worked on them, which I think is actually what our head coach is leaning more towards this coming season, hopefully. And so I think it'll be fall less on one coach and be much more collaborative. Not to say that it wasn't before, because obviously when we would do the scouting reports, we obviously confer with the rest of our staff and obviously head coach. But a group of us, like now, the way we'll do it is one person will have personnel, one person will take defense, one person will take offense, and then the other person will have slobs and blobs and ATOs and those kinds of things. So I think that's what we're leaning more towards this year.
And when you guys do that, would you ever run, you know, if one of you guys goes on the road recruiting, I mean, how do you adjust?
Yeah, I mean, if we're out recruiting, I don't know. So this is what we did just in our conference tournament, and our head coach seemed to like it. So we actually haven't done it yet.
Gotcha.
So I don't know.
Grace, how do you guys break up like your scouting reports, and how do you do all that? Like, what does a scouting report look like for you?
Yeah, so we divided it equally amongst our assistants, our 3 assistants, and really like we kind of since Biro is kind of the most experienced with the WCC, he kind of has all the top dogs a little bit. So he had like Gonzaga, BYU, and then since he had experience at USD, he took USD as well. And then we kind of split the other teams in our conference between Anthony and myself. So that's kind of how we did the splits a little bit. But for us, our scouts are 6 pages or 3 pages front and back. Usually for the first round of conference, kind of that first page is really all about the opponent. So usually we'll put like their top scorers, top 3-point percentages by player, and then kind of best rebounder. All those stats kind of go up, like their top 3 for each of those categories will be on the top, just so our players are kind of getting used to the names and the people. And then we'll kind of go into their team offensive tendencies and then their team defensive tendencies all on the first page. And then the next page will be kind of their personnel, starting 5 for sure. And then if they have like 2 or 3 key subs that come in, impact players, we'll definitely go in there and kind of add them to the scout as well. And then from there, we'll kind of add, you know, kind of their main offensive sets. So if they run something like 50% of the game that we've scouted, we'll kind of include those sets, like written out for our kids, so at least they can kind of see that. And then we'll usually kind of end with like our team comparisons a little bit, kind of what we're our game plan is, and then also like our stat comparisons a little bit, like what's their style of play versus our style of play, then what are the keys that we want to emphasize in this game, offensively and then defensively. And then when we get to round 2 or even like the tournament and stuff like that, it's really more focused on us than it is on them, just because we've experienced them from first round. So it's a lot more like our adjustments and kind of our game and what we're focusing on versus kind of the scouts about the opponents. So that's kind of the way that we do our scouts.
Yeah. And it sounds like everyone kind of divvies up the scouting reports between the assistants. A question in the chat: how do you and your head coach handle it when your scouting report isn't perfect? Or, has there ever been a time where, you say he's not a shooter and, the kid lights it up? Is there anything like that for anybody that they've kind of struggled with, and he's asking because he's, as a head coach, you want your assistants to do your job, right? Obviously. But there's nothing more frustrating for him not being able to identify those. Has there ever been an instance where that's happened for anybody?
I mean, I definitely feel like it's happened for me. I mean, I've said like this person is 22% on 3-point shooting, and all of a sudden they're 3 for 3 in the first quarter, and you're like, what the heck? Just ripped my scout up. But I feel like it's important to just have the communication of like, look, like, I mean, if they're having a great game versus what's like really true over like their last 10 games, I mean, it's kind of hard to predict that a little bit. If they're hitting a certain amount, then let's make the adjustment. But other than that, I think that fear obviously is very valid. But I know as an assistant, that's like one of the most frustrating things for me is like when you say like this person isn't a shooter and all of a sudden they come in and hit threes. But I think, you just emphasize, look, they're 4 for 29 on the season. I didn't know they were going to hit 3 threes in the first quarter. But I feel like that's that happens though. So I think it's just important to have that communication with your head coach for sure.
Yeah, and I think I don't know if anyone else, I'm sure people do, but for us, we distinguish between Clay or Rondo. And so blue is Rondo, red is Clay. And now we say, this person was a Rondo to start, he's not a Rondo anymore. He's a Clay. So we have to play, and we just tell our guys, that every media timeout, every timeout, that, hey, we know what he's done, what he did in the past, and this is what he's doing now. Let's make sure we make the adjustment and play forward. So I feel like we've all had that experience where the one non-shooter is a shooter now.
I think for us, we do our scouts a little bit differently, dividing them up. And like, so we have 2 coaches who will basically funnel the information down. So they'll watch a bunch of games and funnel it down, and then they give it to me. And then I kind of put together the defensive game plan, and then I bring it to our head coach, and then he, watches and looks at it. So like for us, like it passes through several different people before we actually get on the floor. So like I've been on staffs in the past where you just split it up 3 people, but it's only passing through one person's hands. So with us, it passes through like 3 or 4 people's hands. So everybody sees it and everybody's on the same page. And it all started with our head coach wanting the delivery to be the same and consistent every single time. So he wanted the same person talking about it. So that's kind of how we do it. So then, things like that. So if a guy is 4 for 25 and all of a sudden he bangs a 3, like everybody's not just looking at one guy on our staff. It's like, all right, yeah, we all said he couldn't shoot. So that's kind of how we do it.
Yeah, and one thing for us, I don't know what everyone uses, but we use Just Play. And with Just Play, we're able to cut those clips. So personnel, everyone has their own tendencies, they have a team has their own. And so obviously we split ours up. So I may have one night, another assistant, another, but before we start meeting, everyone knows what's going on because our scouting report for our staff at least is way more detailed. It has all that information, so that way they can see everything. So no, I like the way that you guys do that over there, Jace. Anybody else have anything in terms of scouting reports or anything like that?
Curious, does anybody like not like doing scouts with their particular head coach? Like not enjoy it for any particular reason? Just so I don't want to do to it.
I love the way we do it. I mean, it's probably more work, but I love the way we have our system, and working for Coach Peary is awesome. When it comes to all the scouts and all that stuff, it's awesome.
And Jace, you kind of touched on it. Like, what if someone's out on the road? They still have their same responsibilities in terms of getting that film and trickling it down?
No, well, so like two of the guys will alternate. They'll alternate basically what we call the funnel. They alternate the funnel. So and then I have everyone. So it just works out. So like if somebody's not on, then they can go out recruiting. So.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Another question in the chat. As a coaching staff, how do you come to a consensus on how to attack the defense? Because everyone has their own philosophy. In my opinion, I think it obviously comes down to the head coach, but does anyone have anything, how they want to chime in terms of how they attack the other team's defense?
I mean, for us, one of the responsibilities I had, which was cool this year, was coach would come to me and, we're prepping for Fresno, and they switch everything or whatever. And so, we'd go back and watch whatever the last 5-7 games and figure out, okay, how are they getting scored on? What are some of their weaknesses? What other teams are running against them that are giving them issues? And then how can we incorporate that within our offense? Is there, obviously if they're switching, slip cuts, are more effective. Ghosting screens, we call it ghosting, when you're if somebody's running up to a ball screen and they slip out of it. If you're setting an off ball screen, like a pin down, we call it a SAM when the screener slips. So we have different terminology that our guys understand. We have terminology for everything essentially, but I think it's just, the film doesn't lie, and you take different pieces from different teams and how they're attacking, your next opponent, and then you kind of devise a game plan from there. Again, if they're switching, you're slipping. If they're switching ball screens, you're slipping out of those ball screens. And so you just, and once you play them more times, you understand, what they're trying to do. But it's just watching a lot of film for us, and then coming up with here are 5 actions that's another thing we do. We going into the game, we have 5 actions, 5 sets that our guys need to know. And we make sure they know those 5 sets, because at any given time we might run one of those. And they need to know that, whether you're a bench player, whether you're 9th or 10th on the bench, you got to know those sets. Obviously we run other stuff too throughout the game, but those 5 sets in crunch time, if we need a bucket, we're going to one of those, because that's what we've practiced and our guys know how to execute them. And I think that's helped us down the stretch in a few games this past season. So.
Cool. And I know for us as assistants, when we watch film, we always take, if Riverside beat Colorado State and they put them in the middle ball screen every time, well, we're going to try and get different actions to get into a middle ball screen because they did that. And so we just kind of throw stuff, or our head coach, we have to have that stuff ready, how to attack it, what other teams have done, and then what in our offense looks like that, and how can we use our deal to attack them. So no, I think that's all good stuff. Obviously, I don't know about everybody else. I know Colorado State, AK, you guys you have your guys, but during lockdown, during quarantine, what are some of the things that you all have done, to keep your team engaged? Do you do anything at all? Do you meet with them 3-4 times a week, or is it just one time? Grace, you want to start us off?
Yeah. We actually did some team building over Zoom, which I know is not really ideal, but just, again, trying to make the most of our time that we have together online. So we actually read through a book called Chop Wood, Carry Water. I highly recommend it for your teams if you guys want to check it out. Written by UCLA strength and conditioning coach, I believe, or trainer. But the chapters are literally like no more than 2 pages long. And it's really just about them enhancing their skills and being patient. But we were able to kind of just do a few chapters of those every week. And then within kind of their accountability, like partner groups for like workouts, they usually ask each other like a question about the book. And then when we got together, we did like group discussions and just talked about just kind of their ideas of, you know, what they do to get better, what they do to overcome struggle, what they do to stay positive, different things that give us as coaches also great insight on them as people, them as players, how to relate to them, how to encourage them, and also for them to kind of connect with each other, kind of ask each other questions that, you know, some are fun where it's like getting to know you, but a lot of them too got a little bit deep, like, hey, like share something unique in your past that really had to challenge you to overcome. And just being able to kind of hear those stories, I think gave us a deeper appreciation for one another and for kind of the situation that we're in with COVID. But then at the same time, apart from kind of that team building stuff, we also did a lot of fun games. I mean, we used to meet like twice a week. Once was to talk about basketball, putting in our defense, and then the other one will be team building. But we've now finished and kind of tapered to just once a week where we're just kind of checking in, and then we kind of do a lot of fun games. And if you guys need game ideas, I have a ton that I've had to put together. So just hit your girl up. I got you on some fun team game ideas. So yeah.
What about everybody else? What have you guys done over Zoom or any way to keep your team together, engaged?
Helen, I'd love to hear what you guys did, you know, just with the challenge of when the Ivy League like announced what they announced, like how did you guys keep it positive and moving forward?
Yeah, that was tough. I mean, I feel like, I don't know, I guess it was just like really talking about like what a great season we had and just talking about like what like all the memories that we made. So I mean that was the end, like right whenever that happened. That's how we kind of like wrapped everything up. We did like a really makeshift like end of season party in a sense, where we just like threw pizza together, and then one of our assistant coaches made like a highlight video. And then throughout quarantine, basically we started off with like fun games and just, you know, like a Zoom session every week, kind of just talking random stuff, whether that's like, you know, what's going on in your world, what's going on. I mean, a lot of our kids also, what was tough was that they had all these internship plans or like going abroad, you know, study abroad things. And then basically that got all canceled. And so what we had to do was basically reach out to the alum and work, you know, and basically work together along with our like the career advisors to come up with like plans for our kids to find a replacement internship. So that took about a month to like get everything situated and get them placed, whoever wanted internships to get placed. And then now ever since basically through, you know, the whole like political, you know, like the way America is right now in terms of Black Lives Matter, in terms of social activism, we've been really focusing less on, you know, just like we're doing team building through a different way, which is through like reading a book, James Baldwin, you know, and then also watching 13th and, you know, just talking about that type of stuff, you know, really focusing on what we can do as a team, you know, individually in our own communities, but also whenever we do get to come back on campus, whether that's like, you know, we'll have about half the team on campus, you know, what's our purpose, what can we do moving forward. So that's kind of been our conversation, but basically every once a week we've been talking about that.
Amanda?
Similar to what Helen and Grace have said, we've done some team meetings over Zoom. We've had a couple like guest speakers come in on those. One of the first ones, our head coach is close friends with Laisha Clarendon. So before they got the news that they're heading out to Florida, she popped in on one of ours and kind of talked to her girls how she still was staying productive during quarantine and all of that. Try and give them a little bit of motivation. And then aside from that, our head coach he likes to have the touches. So he's been calling the kids individually, probably like every other week, and checking in. And then we have our like group of kids that we are in charge of checking in individually when we're not on those team Zooms, whether it's checking in, making sure that they were getting their summer school classes done, or just checking in on their mental state, what they're doing with their families, things like that, and just checking in on them, making sure that they know they have somebody that if they're having issues, they can rely on us. And so we're just doing those wellness checks, I guess.
Yeah, Jace, I know you guys are going to have I don't know, I'm sure you have anywhere between five to 8 or a whole brand new roster. How are you guys kind of engaging with your players?
Yeah, we got 9 actually. We got 9 new guys. But we do the Zoom calls once a week, checking in with the guys, and then just kind of like Amanda was saying, we check in with the guys that are in summer school classes, making sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. But Coach Peary does a great job of connecting and talking to our players. He talks to them like almost every single day. And we have a team text where we communicate with the guys every day. So we've doing, especially with 9 new guys coming in, that's kind of always our thing, is to constantly communicate with our players. But, especially with 9 new guys coming in, and who knows when they'll be back, but hopefully soon. But just trying to get them to gel in whatever way we can, just so they're more comfortable with each other.
Yeah. And Jace, I'm going to start again with you on this one, because you've been at a lot of different levels. If you were a high school or JC coach, what would be a big emphasis for you? Shooting? Is it shooting still? I know you mentioned shooting. Is it skill development? Is it defense? What's a big deal for you if you were to be a high school or JC coach? What would be a big emphasis?
First, I guess I'd say role model. Outside of the basketball realm,
right.
I would say that's obviously a big thing, getting a true connection on a personal level, instead of just trying to get, things out of them for on the basketball floor. But if you're talking in terms of basketball, I would say defense is obviously, that's my role, so I'm going to say that. But I'd say defense is a big thing, because to translate and move up to the next level, if you don't know where you're supposed to be standing or what you're supposed to be doing or how your feet are defensively, you're going to get exposed at a higher level. So I think building those fundamentals, and then the way the game is going, it seems like everybody wants shooting. So, from all different positions, because it's going away from the, guys just hanging out around the basket or straight drivers, because now people defensively are sitting in the paint. So I would say, increase the shooting and work on defensive fundamentals.
Yeah, Matt?
I think the biggest thing is, creating good habits. That's something that we really lock in on here. And a lot of our guys coming in just kind of aren't ready for the structure day to day. You know what I mean? And it's something that they've got to get accustomed to. Usually takes them a semester or two, you know what I mean? But they do a good job. They're showing up on time. They're working hard. They're engaged, and not spacing in and out, creating good habits. I mean, that's how you get better. That's the only way you get better. So, if you have that foundation, you understand how to learn and how to work. I think that's by far the most important thing. And everything else, the basketball stuff, specific stuff, I mean, you can figure that stuff out, if your mentality is right.
Yeah. Helen? You're on mute.
I think it's the intangibles. I really do. I think being a good teammate. I think being coachable. I mean, I think you have to have, like everybody said also. And then just like really good character. I think those are the main things that will set people apart.
Yeah. Amanda?
I kind of just echo what Jace was saying is about relationships, making sure that you have that trust from your players, but then also once you get on the basketball court, it's the fundamentals, keeping it simple.
Yeah. I'll say I'm gonna move on to a different question. Grace, how often do you practice end of quarter, end of half, end of game situations? And do you have, does coach have a specific play call sheet for those situations?
Yeah, this is a good question. I think early on in the year, again, we were in a scramble to kind of just teach all of our kids like a whole new set of offenses, a whole new set of defenses from what they did the previous year. So a lot of the beginning of our year was really focused toward that, them kind of learning our stuff. But what we kind of discovered toward the middle of our season was we needed to spend a lot more time kind of in end of game situations. I think we lost 8 games this year by 3 points or less. And that really, it really stung us a little bit. But kind of it just showed us where we need to kind of spend a little bit more time, especially in those close games. We, toward the end of the season, started working on end of game situations like every day, spending about like 10 to 15 minutes on it, and being very specific too. I mean, we kind of like to put our girls in kind of those 5-on-5 situations where it's kind of controlled, but again, like team 1 down by 3, sideline out of bounds, 12 seconds left, this is what we're running, just so that everybody can kind of be on the same page on what we're doing. And so each team would be able to get that, they would rep it until it was right, until we liked the way it looked, and then we kind of move on to the next thing. But again, kind of we spent every day working on, especially the middle end of the season, working on end of game situations and everything. Baseline out of bounds, sideline out of bounds, taking it out full court in the back court, with just different time limits, and then having them compete in that so it's realistic and it's not just like drawn up, but again, where the defense is kind of live and we're making play calls. I think that's really important for especially the tail end of the seasons when games are getting close and teams are able to scout you and know what you're doing. So, yeah, we got pretty specific with it.
Yeah, Matt, how's Coach K with end of game situations?
Pretty old school, man. He just gives it to our best guy, pretty much in a spot that he feels comfortable in. Every once in a while, we think we have something that we can take advantage of, you know what I mean? Like going back to the scouting reports, we might try to do that. But for the most part, we're giving it to our stud and saying, make a play.
Yeah, that's easy. Amanda?
We have our gold series that our players know if we need a 2, it's gold 2. If we need a 3, it's gold 3. And so that's if we don't have a timeout to take or if we just want to get it and go so the defense can set up. And then our head coach also has a sheet of plays that he'll drop if he calls a timeout.
AK, how's Coach Medved? I feel like he got some good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the beginning of the year, we'll put in, kind of what like Amanda was saying. We'll have a set that if we need a quick 2, that's what we'll go to. If we need a quick 3, we'll have something that these guys know that they can run if we don't call a timeout. Coach Medved doesn't like to call timeout end of game situations because it allows the defense to get set or change defenses. So, our guys have an understanding of what is expected if we need a late 2 or a quick 2 or a quick 3. But then as the year goes along, we'll add some stuff. This past year we got killed on a sideline out of bounds where we didn't have anything. We were down 3 and ended up getting to our 5-man who was a 43% free throw shooter, and Utah State fouled them. And, to their credit, that was a smart play. But that made us, kind of reevaluate and say, hey, okay, we need 2 or 3 sideline out of bounds that we can go to that, either our 5-man's out and we're going small. And that won't happen again. But yeah, no, we emphasize probably when we get to January, we probably put 8 minutes on the clock every day for practice and go over specific situations, down 4 with 40 seconds or, just play it out, and there's a winner and there's a loser.
Yeah, Mike, this one's for you. Just so you know, Coach Taylor, he just draws stuff up randomly, and usually it's pretty good. Like we go back to the huddle, and we're like, what is that? So hopefully that's you, Mike. Now that you're in the chair.
I know. I like what you said, AK, about having 5 specific plays. I'm about preparation. I want our guys, or I was always rooting for us to like have like kind of like a 2-minute drill. Why would we not do the same thing in basketball? If we're getting to the end of the game, like I prefer our guys to know what we're running. Just kind of like Amanda, you said, you know you're running goal 2, goal 3. Like they know it. So because I feel like when you're in those situations, there's a lot. I mean, as a coach, and I haven't been there yet as a head coach, but I'm sure you're blacked out trying to make a decision, trying to figure it out, and just like having a go-to play like goal 2, goal 3. I think that's huge. It's just, the biggest part of it, I think, is the guys know what they're doing, or girls.
Yeah.
To touch on something you just said, Coach, like something that we emphasize is we really watch the first 4 minutes of a game when we're scouting and the last 4 minutes, because generally that's what they practice the most. The first 4 minutes, they want to run it, they want to execute it, they want to get a good shot. And so if we're in a close game and, we're on defense and there's a timeout, we're telling our guys, hey, be ready for this action, be ready for this, because that's generally at least what Coach Medved believes. What they run in the first 4 to 6 minutes, that's what they're going to go to at the end of the game, because that's generally what they practice that the day before, 2 days before, and so that's something that we stress pretty heavily too.
Quick situation, Matt. This is for Matt, AK, and Grace. Matt, obviously, Coach says give it to your best player, but side out of bounds, up 3, and your team is on defense coming out of a timeout. 7 seconds. Tell us what you're telling your guys in that huddle. And you're on defense.
We're on defense. Yeah, Damian and I are pleading with Coach K that we should foul, and he is disagreeing adamantly. And this goes back and forth for about 15 to 20 seconds, and then ultimately we just end up playing man and switching everything.
AK.
We're switching 1 through 5. Do not foul a shooter. Contest, but do not foul a shooter. We're switching 1 through 5. We'll probably play our 6'6", 270 starting 4-man at the 5, and just tell them, don't foul. We'll give up a 2, but take it away.
Grace.
Yeah, it'd be similar. I think Biro would probably be saying deny everything. Anthony would say let's do a 2-3 zone, and I would say let's just go man up, switch everything, and then kind of leave it up to coach to decide. But usually it'd be man up and just switch everything at that point. Same thing. Don't foul the shooters. Kind of let it play out. If they hit it, we'll live to see in overtime. But that's pretty much the same thing. Yeah.
All right, Amanda, Jace, Helen, another situation. Down 1. All right, let's do another side out of bounds. Down 3 on offense. Coming out of the timeout, 7 seconds. How are you getting a 3 off to tie, or are you going for 2, or what are you doing? Or what does that huddle seem like? Down 3 on offense, 7 seconds left. You're coming out of a timeout, or you're coming out of a timeout.
I'm running that play that the Chicago Sky just ran, with that hammer coming back on the zipper drive to the shooter in the corner.
Or Jace, what do you got?
Oh, that's tough. Probably taking whatever the defense gives us. I guess if you have a good play that you can try and get a layup on real quick, with also something built in with a 3, probably running that. I guess if it takes a little while, you're going to have to get a 3 up somehow, because you won't have time to foul, and then you can't advance the ball. So, yeah.
Do you run a ball screen?
Yeah. I mean, it depends. It also, I feel like, depends on what the defense is doing. If you've had success on your ball screens, then sure, yeah. But if you haven't been able to run a ball screen all night, then no.
Yeah. Helen?
Yeah, so we would So Iowa ran this against us, and they killed us about it. But basically, it's like a ball screen with like twist action. I don't even know how to explain it, but like basically you would go for three. And if worst case scenario you can't get it, you tell Bella to make sure that she stands outside on the 3-point line, and she's a really good 3-point shooter, and she's 6'4". So worst case scenario, if you actually can't get your shooter open, you just throw it to Bella and tell Bella to throw it up. And I mean, as like worst case scenario, that's not a bad option for us either.
Great. A little bit of a quick response, and I'll just call out who's going. But Matt, once again, I don't know if this applies to you, but what junk defense do you use? Would you use? Just real quick, off top.
I like the 1-3-1 extended.
Okay, extended AK.
Triangle and 2.
Grace?
I like the buzz defense.
The what?
The buzz defense. It's like a 2-1-2 type of defense. Yeah.
Okay. Amanda?
Run and jump.
Run and jump. Jace?
Is pressing considered junk or?
Not when you do it the whole game.
You'll change it up.
I go box and 1.
Box and 1. Helen?
Either a run and jump or a 1-3-1, yeah, depending on who we have out there.
Another quick one. AK, starting with you. Underrated skill that you think is overlooked.
Passing.
Passing.
Being able to throw a pull pass out of a pick and roll.
Cool. Grace.
I say same. Passing, especially out of the pick and roll. Yeah, I love that.
Matt.
Along the similar lines, IQ.
Okay. Helen.
Yeah, passing, post entry. Like, I don't think anyone knows how to post entry pass no more. That's a struggle.
Jace.
Get a defensive rebound.
Amanda.
I would say defensive rebound off the free throw line or playing off 2 feet.
2 feet. Helen, starting with you. Most important component in the scouting report.
Probably personnel.
Personnel. Amanda, going back with you.
Same, personnel.
Jace.
I would say sets or plays for layups.
Matt.
Personnel.
AK.
I like Jace's answer. Taking away easy 2s.
Yep. Grace.
I gotta go with personnel too.
And then going back around, Grace, starting with you, you mentioned a book other than, what was it, Chop Wood, Carry Water? Any other book recommendations out there?
Ooh, I would say 20. I think it's 21 Laws of Teamwork.
21
Really
Laws.
good book, yeah.
Okay, never heard that one. Jace, book or podcast? I don't know if everyone reads.
Bruce Arians' Whisper.
Bruce Arians, what was that?
Quarterback Whisper.
Quarterback Whisper. Amanda?
Easy read would be Wolfpack by Abby Wambach.
Okay. Helen?
Oh, I'll go with Mama Mentality, the Kobe Bryant book. I think that was really good.
Yeah.
It's like a cop-out, though, but.
No, that's a good book. That's a good book. Matt?
I love The Alchemist.
Okay. AK?
I'll go with The Legacy Builder from Coach Roddles.
Starting again with you, AK. How do you get better at your craft, what you do?
Me personally?
Yeah.
Just continue to reach out and build relationships with people, and just watching a ton of film and just continue to learn, the game of basketball and just to be a sponge.
Yep. Jace?
I would say watching film and trying to get better 2 points at a time. Just figure out how to help the team 2 points at a time.
Yep. Matt?
Just staying humble, knowing you don't have all the answers, and then seeking them out.
Yeah. Amanda?
Honest self-evaluation and just to continue to learn.
Yep, I like that. Grace?
Ask a lot of questions, and find a mentor, somebody that could kind of be honest with you, teach you, and that you kind of go to for kind of your own reflections and feedback.
And then AK, or no, Helen.
Just building relationships, whether that's like within, you know, the department, or even just like with your kids, like going deeper with your kids and like really understanding who they are, where they're coming from, you know, just because, you know, you want to have that trust between the two. So those are probably my things that I would work on.
Yeah, a couple more quick questions to kind of round out. I'll say for three coaches to answer. Who's been a big career influence for you, and why? Any three coaches on the panel. Big career influence, and why?
I'll go. My high school coach, my college coach, and I picked three or any?
No, one career influence, and why?
I guess
no answer. There's a lot. We all have different people in our corner.
Yeah, I'll just say my high school coach, you know, taught me, you know, how to become a better player and think about things differently, and really taught me the game.
My current boss, Greg Kamansky, has been great. Completely changed my philosophy and understanding of how to teach the game. You know, I was so locked in on plays and, you know, strategy in the post as opposed to teaching kids how to play. You know, just the way he gives ownership to our players of the program, gives them responsibility, empowers them, it was something brand new to me.
And then one more.
I say my dad, just a huge influence on me from when I was a kid. Just gave me a love for the game that I still carry to this day. And I think his work ethic just in his own life, I mean, he's not a coach, but I think seeing like him go after his dreams and pursuing those things were a big reason why I kind of continued in kind of this field and this career. So I think that's something that, you know, I learned from him and carry with him still.
Another three coaches, recommendations for someone looking to get involved, to be an assistant, to be an ops, to be a video. You know, any three recommendations for people looking to make that jump?
I mean, for me, it was just being ready. You know, I was always being prepared, stay ready. And then I saw somebody ask any advice for GAs. Go work as many camps as possible and network. Wherever you are, just go meet people. That's the best way.
I would say build relationships and not for the sole purpose of climbing the ladder. I got my job here at Pacific because I had open conversations with my head coach, just about his career path, about advice. And so just building those relationships, and so people know you as a person and for what you stand for, and not for just wanting to climb that ladder.
One more.
Yeah, I mean, I would have to echo what everyone else said. It is really all about relationships. And then also like if you are in a position and you want to move up, like I think no job is too small, and just like whatever needs to be done, like you just go do it all in. Doesn't matter how long it takes, doesn't matter, like even if you think it's like the dumbest thing, like there really probably is a reason to do it most of the time. And so you just do it and you keep you just keep working hard. And then, yeah, just ask a lot of questions.
Let me see a couple more here. What makes each of you different from the rest of your staff?
Oh, I'm Asian. No, I'm just kidding. But like real life, that is true. I'm Asian and nobody else on staff is. But I think for me, it's just my head coach came from D3. So me having my background at Texas and at Georgetown, seeing like really, really good director of ops, shout out Steve and shout out AO. I like learned how to be a director of ops very, very well, like meticulous, being very organized. And so I think I was able to take that whole, itinerary, like organization piece off of her plate. And I think that's what I bring to the table on our staff.
Who else wants to go? Biggest thing that separates you from the rest of your staff?
I've coached somewhere else. Damian's been there for 20 some odd years. Greg has been there more than that. I think he was at Fresno Pacific for a couple years before that. But I've been at 3-4 schools, you know what I mean? I've just worked under different people.
For me, something I heard yesterday actually from one of our assistants who was doing a call for All Access, but just being available, just if something needs to get done, kind of like what Helen was saying, just be available. I think that's something that I bring to the table. I don't have kids. So, if something needs to get done, our staff knows that they can rely upon me to get whatever that needs to be done, or financiers, or, just be kind of a jack of all trades kind of person.
And I'll leave it right here. I have 3 last questions. I'm just going to go in order of how you guys are on my screen. So I'm not picking on anybody, but this is early in your career. Matt, what's the hardest thing you had struggled with early?
The line between being a friend with the players and being a coach.
AK.
Yeah, the same thing. Just, having lived with our players at Minnesota for my 4 years as a student manager, there was a fine line between, what's right and what's wrong. And then, just the same sentiments as Matt said.
Grace?
I think starting to coach when I was young, I started coaching right out of high school, so I was 18. So I think as you're starting to learn about coaching, you're also still kind of figuring yourself out. I think that was a really big challenge for me. It was like learning and experiencing while also starting to kind of coach and know what I'm talking about. So that was a little bit of a struggle.
Yeah. Amanda?
I would say the networking piece. I'm very introverted, so it's uncomfortable for me. So that was a big thing to get over early on.
Jace?
I would say being able to move on from losing.
Yeah. Helen?
I would say just asking for work. As the GA, I was kind of like, I don't know, you're in between, like being kind of like on staff versus like just as like a student. And so, but like wanting to do more. So having that courage to just like, hey, ask my head coach, like what needs to be done? What can I do to help the program? And so I think that has like having that courage and that belief in myself that if she gave me something that I can do it well. That's kind of something that, I had to work on.
Yeah. Matt, going back around to you, advice to your younger self or to other coaches?
I think whatever you do, whatever decision where you decide to work, I think you need to accomplish one of 2 things, right? You need to expand your network and work for people that can help you, or you need to gain more reps as a coach. And it's always tough because those are those are usually like very rarely mutually exclusive. Is that the right term? It's hard to accomplish both at the same time, is what I'm trying to say. Typically you have to go to a lower level where there's less resources, where you're given more responsibility. You know what I mean? The people that can help you, are typically higher up, but you're not going to be able to do as much. So it's kind of balancing that and making sure you get a mixture of both.
Great. AK?
That's a tough one. I guess my first 3 years as a manager for Tubby Smith, I just would go into practice. I would do my job, and I wouldn't necessarily ask for more tasks. And so expressing how passionate this game is to me, and seeking things to do. I wish I would have done that more, and have had a better relationship with Coach Smith and some of the assistants on staff.
Grace?
Don't let other people's opinions about you dictate who you are. You know what I mean? It's like, it doesn't matter if you didn't play college basketball. Like, you love the game, you could learn it, you spend the time, put in the energy to be your best, like, you can achieve that. So don't let what other people have to say discourage you from, you know, pursuing your dreams.
I like that a lot. Amanda?
I think making sure that your players know that you are invested in them even after you've gotten them. When I started as a director of ops, I wasn't sure necessarily how to navigate that line and build those relationships with my players, because you don't have that contact with them on the floor, or that extra time where you're building that relationship when you're an individual with them. So kind of figuring that piece out of it earlier on.
Yeah, Jace?
I would say worry about the job that you have, and be great in your role. You know, be thankful for the position that you're in, and do it the best you absolutely can, and then everything else will take care of itself.
Helen?
I think it's great to have your network of like people within the industry, but I also think it's really, really important, like maybe even more so important just for like your own mental health and for your own like peace of mind, like have people in your that are not related to basketball or the industry at all that you can just like talk to, hang out, like decompress, completely step away from basketball whenever you need to, and then whenever you come back to basketball or your industry, your job, like then you can like be all in. So having that like group of people, that support network that's like not basketball related, I think is very important.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. And last question here for everybody before we get off. What do you want your legacy to be at the end of your career? Matt?
I don't know. I feel like LeBron or something, like asking me that question. I don't worry about, I don't worry about legacy, man. I just work each day by day, year by year, and just try to do the best that I can, man. Whatever the legacy, it is what it is.
AK?
Yes, for me, it would be just, you know, for any student athlete that I touch and come across, that they know that I always have their back and will be a resource for them wherever and whenever, you know, they go in life. So that's the most important thing.
Grace?
Yeah, I think that I hope the legacy is that like people can remember me to be someone who had a great passion for the game and had a great love for the program and the people that were in it. That's always the goal, and that's always the hope with everything that I do. So.
Yeah, Amanda?
I was going to say the same. Love for the game and love for the people I'm doing it with, and that my players know that I cared for them and was invested in them.
Jace?
I would just say that I hope that our players know how much I cared about them, and just like everybody else is saying, and that they truly are family to me.
Helen?
Yeah, basically what everybody else says, but also like, I mean, we're doing it for our people in a sense. Like we do represent our, you know, Asian American or Asian community, and like providing that, you know, role model or whatever it is, just like that like a bit, that I don't know, that figure that like, yo, you can do it. I mean, and so yeah, I want to, you know, impact the lives that, you know, we touch every single day that's within our program or within our department and our school. But like if we can have a further reach and we can, you know, impact those who don't ever see people like us, then like, yeah, that's even better in my opinion too.
Yeah, and sorry, Coach Matsuhura put a question in the chat. Has anyone, as an Asian coach, experienced racial discrimination or microaggressions from anyone else on staff, or even the players, or even the administration?
I haven't personally.
I'm gonna take the quietness as a no from everybody. And then I'll just throw another one out there. Why do you all think that there aren't as many Asians in the industry, whether it's coaches, ops, video coordinator, administrators? Why is that?
I mean, part of it, I think, is that maybe we don't speak up enough. I don't know if that's true for everyone. I mean, I think there is like that whole stereotype that we kind of like lay back, we just kind of chill in the back and like we just put our head down and we work, which is very true for I think all of us, that we do work really hard. But at some point, like I think we maybe don't get, just like we don't put ourselves out there enough, and that's on us partially, that I'm talking about we as a collective like community need to just like stand up and be more vocal and be, I don't know, I guess more like vocally proud of who we are and kind of show up, you know, in different meetings in different spaces. That's my opinion, but I don't know. Y'all can.
And I'll chime in. I think you're 100% right. And I think, you know, when you say we as a group, I think we have to be happy for each other's success. You know, like when Mike got the job, he's in our league. Like I'm blowing him up. I felt like I was way more excited for him than he was for himself. And then doing stuff like this, right? I'm always big on helping other people. And then when they're Asian, I feel like I want to help them even more, because there's not a lot, you know, just the Asian community in college sports. And so I think that's a way we all can do that. And obviously our time is spent with our families, with being pulled different directions. But I think that's just a big thing for us to take ownership of. And I don't know if there's anybody else that has anything else anything to chime in on that, but you can go ahead and unmute yourself, even if you're not on the panel.
I think culturally, I mean, I can't speak for everybody, but I think a lot of our parents maybe want us to take more traditional career paths. And when you throw out something like coaching that's a little more outside the box and to some more risky, you're met with a little bit of resistance. You know what I mean? And I think you got to be strong enough to know that it's something you're passionate about and you're going to do it anyways. And you're going to figure it out and make it work.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I appreciate everyone for tuning in with us. I appreciate the 6 coaches on the panel: Matt, AK, Grace, Amanda, Helen, Jace. Appreciate your time. Appreciate your insight. I thought it was great. Hopefully everyone else on the call was able to get some information. We covered a lot of different things, and to be honest, I have a lot more other questions. We just got to be cognizant of everyone's time, but I appreciate everyone tuning in with us. I think it was really, really good. And I'll let either Steve or Mike close it out for us.
Yeah, thanks guys for coming on. Just by listening, you guys, I think we've proven we have a never-ending well of great coaches, it seems like. And so this community that we have here in this association was, I mean, I said it like 8 years ago, and I was like, I think it can be done. I think it can be done. And the original goal was this right here, this support, this network of support and development. So it's on, like Helen, it's on already. Like you can see, like just look at this group. I mean, I just had Steve, who's a Dartmouth, and he's not Asian. He just texted me. And I'm just like, man, this thing's got legs, you know, our association's got legs. And so it's great. You know, I'm really proud of it. I'm really proud of all of us. And this Santos is a perfect example of it. He's the one who put this all together. And that's what I'm just really glad that you guys are all engaged, and just like we're seeing this level of engagement that I thought could be done, but now like Anthony just proven it. And obviously Steve and Garrett are a huge part of it, and Steve and myself, but Anthony just putting this on, and Matt, Jace, Amanda, Helen, AK, and Grace just coming on and continuing to support this. It's great. So hopefully as we grow, like, and when I mean like a network, like it's a real network, just like if you're in the business world or you're in this coaching industry that we're in, it's a network. So we should be helping each other. We should be communicating with each other, whether it's recruiting, whether it's helping each other. So all the young guys always ask me, like, how do you get in? How do you get in? How do you get in? Well, like, you have to know who's leaving at Cal Poly Pomona before it gets out there, right? Like once it's out on Hoopter, and we all know, I mean, maybe you don't, that's what I'm sharing. And that's what we should be helping each other with. If you want to continue to progress, not only do you have to do a great job of what you're doing, but we have to help each other. We have to be each other's eyes and ears out there. I just, like, one of the things I did, this is totally random, but I watched Entourage again from start to finish during this, just stuff that I just have it on, but it was just funny. Like Lloyd, I don't know if you guys watch Entourage. I don't know, but Lloyd, like, he had like he called it his gay army out there. Like that was his information. Well, we have our Asian army out there. Like, we have to, information is the most powerful thing that we'll all learn this as you go through the business. Information is the most powerful thing. Just like today, like, we had an athletic department meeting at 11:30, and all I did last night was try to figure. I should have called you, Santos, but I didn't want to give it away. I had to find out what the hell was this athletic department meeting was about. What was the Big West was canceling fall sports. So that's the network and that stuff matters in all this. And so as much as this development is everything to us as coaches, and that's what we're passionate about, the network and us helping each other matters even more. You know, people say politics. Well, that's how you do it. I mean, like, we got to help each other. We got to talk to each other, and we got to communicate with each other. And the coolest thing about this thing is that now it's turned into, you know, so Anthony, you asked the question, you're like, well, why aren't there as many Asian coaches? Well, actually, when I look on the women's side, like, there's a lot. And I've always thought of it, and I'm right or wrong, I've always thought of it as because there's more women Asian players is kind of why that's just kind of how I justified it. And like, because really, if you look at the Division I side, it's Jace, Coach Peck, Santos, there's not many Asian descent coaches, whereas the women's side, there's more. But now, as an organization and our association, because we have both the men's and women's sides, now, Grace, you can kind of, I mean, you don't, not like we're trying to like steal anything from Pepperdine, but now we have somebody at Pepperdine. Like, maybe Anthony's going for a job there, and you do put in a good word for him. One of the biggest things I learned from DP, my old boss who just left, that shit matters. Like, whereas when I started at Columbia, you know, I thought I was smarter than the rest, than the administration. I was like, they're not making good. I mean, I'm like, I'm smarter than these people. Well, it matters. Like, you got to play the game. And that's probably the main thing I learned from Coach Patrick outside of basketball is, everybody asks me, well, why is he the best recruiter, top 5 recruiter in the country? It's that. Like, it doesn't matter if it's the guy who runs our gear, who handles our gear and equipment, or it doesn't matter if it's the associate AD or SWA. He has a great relationship with every single person. And it paid dividends for me, because 2 years ago when I was like, I don't want to go to that like opening student, whatever, or a little party, let the athletes, no, he's like, no, you're going. Like, you're going to go do the walk on campus with the chancellor when he's walking. You're going to do that. You know, all that stuff matters. So I don't know. Sorry, I'm sorry to preach here, but just if we want to continue to grow and like and move and shake, this matters. Like, all these the network. It's just like if you were in real estate or any kind of other organization, it's all the same. So thank you guys. Just to mention, Steve mentioned, we have an awesome speaker next week. Shenton Y, he's now a scout for the Utah Jazz, but I met him 8 years ago. He's one of the OGs, and I think Anthony Okada, you guys know him. You guys might have met him back in the day. He was a UTSA assistant coach, originally from Australia, and then now he's made his way to the NBA. So he'll be speaking, and we may be able to get another speaker. And as we get through this, you guys are more than welcome to, you know, we've seen Grace a couple times and Matt a couple times here, but Amanda, this was really cool to meet you for the first time. But anybody else that's interested in sharing and being a part of this thing, the more engagement, the better. So I don't know if you guys got anything else, Steve, or whatnot, but thank you guys. And Steve, you good?
Yeah, this is great, Mike. Man, appreciate you. Thank you so much for leading the way, brother. And everybody else, Santos, and the Super Six is what I call y'all. Thank you so much for doing this and jumping on, and everybody else. I mean, we talk about our community, but our allies and our people. So this means a lot, and we're here with the same language, and that's the language of basketball, and that's what it is. So thank you guys again, and I appreciate you guys.
Thank you guys, and Anthony, way to kill it, man. That was awesome. I hope we do another one of these. This was really fun.
Cool. Thanks, everybody. Thanks all. Matt,
Thank you.
Grace, Amanda, Jace, Helen. Thanks again.
Garrett. Thank you, Garrett.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Garrett.
Thanks, G.
Garrett.